Hi friends, this is Leela. Welcome to my channel Leela WebDev. In this video, we will learn about the new concept in the CSS grid, that is implicit grid versus explicit grid. What is the difference between those two? Let's try to learn now. So I will try to show you that implicit grid and also the explicit grid, how it will be and what is the difference between them. So let's try to see it. So here I am removing this all website layout. Okay, here I will be dividing this one all. Hey, where is this one? Not able to delete or what? Yeah, here I have selected. So here I'm using the emit. So div dot I want item dot item hyphen dollar I'm using, so that it will come 1 2 3 4 5 like that. So 8 items I am taking total. So in this one I need to have something like item space dollar. So that's it. Let's write it. So this is the emit which I have used it. So here I am having 8 items totally. Item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4 like that. Item hyphen 1, item hyphen 2. So like this we are having 8 items. Now let's try to see the output, how it will look like. If you try to see the output, yeah, so here we are able to see this grid structure, right? Let's remove this all CSS. Okay, I will write first onwards. So website layout structure is completed. We are learning another new concept. So I am taking container. So as usual, I will take width of 1000 pixel and background color. I will apply something like #EE. Okay, here I will apply margin of 30 pixel so that it will come little bit down, and auto it will be center. You see the output? Yeah, so this is the output which we are trying to see. And for each item, I will take for each item. So padding, I will give padding of 20 pixel, and I can apply background color for each item as orange, red, or anything, whichever you want, you can give it. And for font size, these all things are okay. So font size, I'll try to give the font size so that we can see it very clearly. And here if I try to see the output, so these are the items. Okay, so like this we are able to see the items. Now let's try to apply a grid here. So what I am trying to apply, so here I am trying to make it as a display grid, and here I want to have something like grid hyphen template hyphen rows. So I'm creating only 2 rows, so that means each row should be 150 pixel and 150 pixel. Okay, and I will create columns. So columns also I want to have only 2 columns. So columns, I will use repeat function. Repeat 2 columns I want, each one should be 1 FR. That's it. So if you try to see the output, how it will look like, so like this it is having. Let's try to add grid gap also. Grid gap also I am adding. Grid hyphen gap is around 30 pixel. Let's see what could be the output here. Yeah. So now if you try to see here, what we have created a display grid structure, and we have added only rows. Rows should be only 2, and the columns also only 2 only. But here what has happened? So here we are able to see the rows are 1 2 3 4 rows are there, and the columns are as usually 2 columns are only there. So here we are telling to the grid that explicitly the rows should be only 2, but the items are more than 4. Because of that reason, so remaining 4 items are coming in the bottom as an implicit. Okay, so these 4 we are explicitly mentioning the grid width and height, so by mentioning the template rows and columns, but remaining the grid automatically arranges here at the bottom. So these items are called as an implicit grid. So this top 2 is called as an explicit grid. Why? Because explicitly we have mentioned the rows and columns for this one, and grid, this one automatically algorithm will arrange here at the bottom. So these are called as an implicit grid. So this is one of the important concept you need to understand. Whatever the rows and columns you mentioned here at the top, it is an explicit grid, and at the bottom it is called as an implicit grid. Now if you try to see here at the bottom, so now if you try to go to the elements, and here if you try to see the grid, so the first one, if you try to see the first one, it is having exactly 150 pixel of height. Why? Because we have mentioned the grid template rows as 150 pixel. So because of that reason, we are able to see that the height of that one is 150 pixel, and the width of this one is 485, because we have mentioned is 1 FR, 1 fraction unit. Because of that reason, it is taking 1 fraction unit. Fine, it's correct. Let's try to see about the implicit grid, what is the width and height of for that one? So if you try to see here, so here if you try to see, the width of this one is 485, one fraction unit it is taking, but the height if you try to see, this is one is an implicit, right? So we cannot, we haven't mentioned any height for this one, so it is taking 74, something like that. So for this one we can mention the height for this one. How we can mention the height or for this implicit grids is, so here you can say that grid hyphen auto hyphen rows. You can mention it as grid hyphen auto hyphen rows. I can mention it as 100 pixel. Now when you mention this one as 100 pixel, if you see the output, suddenly the height of this one is 100 pixel right now. So if you try to see here, the height is 485 by 100. If you are able to observe that 485 by 100 pixels. So that means for the implicit grid, we can mention the height of this one using grid hyphen auto hyphen rows. So like this we can mention it. Okay. So now you may be getting a doubt that, so now the things is, so here if you try to see here, so this one is then column based, right? Row based, right? So that is the reason it is taking item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4 like this. So it's a row based, right? So first it is trying to fill the row completely. So first row it will try to fill the completely, and next afterwards only it will go to the second row, third row like this. So now here the default one is the row structure. So that is the reason this implicit grid is taken as a rows. For example, if this implicit grid, if you want to take it as a column, means what we need to do? It's correct. So now how can I mention is, if you want to make it as a column means, so here you need to mention grid hyphen auto hyphen flow. Okay, by default this one is a row. If you mention this one as a column, so now if you try to observe here, see, instead of taking this one as a row, this implicit grid has become as a columns. Okay, now if you try to see this one, this time if you try to see item 1, item 2, so here instead of having this side row wise filling, so here this is trying to fill column wise. Why? Because we have given grid hyphen auto hyphen flow as a column, so that means column should be taken as the utmost importance. So that is the reason first columns are getting filled up, and next afterwards only the rows are getting filled up. So column is taken as the priority. So that is the reason item 1, item 2 are one by one down. If you mention this one as a row, so now if you try to see, if you mention this one auto flow as a row, which is by default, now if you try to see here horizontal, item 1 and item 2 are horizontal, so it is trying to fill the row first. So this is one of the important thing you need to understand. If I mention this one as a column, okay, so now rows doesn't have anything to do. Why? Because so here rows, if you try to see here, so rows means height, right? So if you try to see the height for this one, it is 150 pixels. So rows is taken automatically by for this one. Now you can increase the column for this. Okay, so you can increase the width of the this one. So when this grid item has converted into a column, you can increase the width of this one. How can you increase the width is grid hyphen auto hyphen columns. So you can take grid hyphen auto hyphen columns as 100 pixel. Okay, if you take this one as 100 pixel, now if you try to see here, this one is exactly 100 pixel. So the width of this one is 100 pixel. So here you can control the width when the grid hyphen auto hyphen flow is column. If it is row means, then you can control the height of this one. So this is all about the implicit grid. So you need to understand that when you don't mention explicitly the grid rows and columns, so automatically the grid will convert the remaining items into a implicit grid. So that is one concept. So you can control the implicit grid by using the grid hyphen auto hyphen flow. So this is all about the implicit grid and the explicit grid. So you need to understand it. If you have any doubts or any suggestions, please post the comments below to this video. And if you like this video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you.